What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the AZ Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Humphreys, and it is a great day to be an Arizona sports fan. And let me tell you why. Because the Arizona Diamondbacks are tied for the second National League wildcard spot. They're not even in the third place wildcard spot, which is what we celebrated a week ago. Today, they are tied for second with the Philadelphia Phillies. They rattled off two straight wins to win an incredibly entertaining and incredibly heart stopping, show stopping, everything you could ask for in a baseball series. The Arizona Cardinals, or the Arizona Diamondbacks did that against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the Arizona Cardinals have started their NFL training camp, which means football season is right around the corner. Carson Beck is throwing passes. Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson are competing for the wide receiver number one spot. Trey McBride is catching everything thrown his way. Jacoby Brissett's learning the offense. There are guys standing out on defense. There's problems along the offensive line. There is so much to talk about and not enough time. So let's get right into the Arizona Diamondbacks. On the very last podcast episode I did, I said that the Arizona Diamondbacks should not buy at the MLB trade deadline and that it was likely that they were going to miss the playoffs because of how poorly they performed against the Washington Nationals and had just come off of a extra innings loss against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it looked like the Pittsburgh Pirates were going to go on and win the series and send the Diamondbacks back down to send them out of the wild card. But no, that is exactly what didn't happen. And the Arizona Diamondbacks are now are now buyers at the MLB trade deadline because of Brandon Fott, Eduardo Rodriguez, Gabriel Moreno, Gerardo Castillo, and so many more players. So let's get right into it. The Arizona Diamondbacks won the series against the Pittsburgh Pirates after an incredible resilient performance against the Pittsburgh Pirates on Tuesday night, where they were up 6-0 thanks to some stellar pitching from Brandon Fott and some good situational hitting for the most part, although the Diamondbacks were a 3 for 27 with runners in scoring position during this game and still managed to score 8 runs. Just incredible. But also shows that they're so close in these games to breaking it open, but they just cannot hit with runners in scoring position. They're last in the league in hitting with runners in scoring position since the beginning of June. They're, I believe, 25th overall with hitting with runners in scoring position overall this season. So it's been a real struggle for them. But regardless, they were still up 6-0. Brandon Fott completely shoved 7 innings, 101 pitches, 0 runs, 6 hits. Wow, can't talk. 1 walk and 4 Ks. He's phenomenal. Remember when the Diamondbacks gave him that pretty sizable contract extension at the end of the 2024 season? Well, if for the next 18 months Brandon Fott regressed. He did not show that he was worth that contract at all. But since coming back from Reno, the reset that he needed in Reno, he got everything right. And he has done nothing but shove since coming back. His ERA went from mid 5.5s to 4. And it's going to continue to drop because he's going to continue to shove. Everything is working for him right now. The fastball accuracy is great. The curveball, the changeup, even the sweeper is starting to sweep again, which is something that was really worked really well for him in the 2023 and 2024. The cutter is starting to play really well as well. he has a great pitch mix, and it looks like the Diamondbacks made the right decision to extend him 2 years ago. Now, it took us a while to get there, and I will be lying if I said I, and I've always been a Brandon Fott believer, but I would be lying if I said that when he got sent down to Reno, if he went down and continued to get shelled, I didn't know if we'd ever see Brandon Fott play many more meaningful games in an Arizona Diamondbacks uniform. But thankfully, he's come back and he has been the catalyst, along with Eduardo Rodriguez and Merrill Kelly, to this Diamondbacks team making a push for the National League wild card, and has just done an unbelievable job at carrying this team, especially when this bullpen is super depleted, because they've been used so much due to Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt not making it very far into games. Brandon Fott has carried and is finally fully stretched out again. It took him a while to get fully stretched out, but 101 pitches means that we got full full force, high octane Brandon Fott for the rest of the season. I expect many more performances like this from him for the rest of the season, and it's going to be great for the Arizona Diamondbacks to have this guy in the rotation who looks like a guy who can help your team make a deep playoff run. Then we have to talk about Eduardo Rodriguez's performance on well, actually, we'll save that. Anyway, so the game on Tuesday, the Diamondbacks were up 6-0. Then it all fell apart. We saw Ryan Thompson give up 3 runs in the eighth inning, and we saw Paul Sewald gave up 3 runs, including 2 home runs in the ninth inning to tie the game. Juan Murillo came in and miraculously saved the game and sent it to extra innings, where the Diamondbacks ultimately won 8-7, thanks to the incredible pitching from Kevin Ginkel and Gerardo Carrillo. Gerardo Carrillo is a guy that they brought up into the bullpen from AAA. He signed a minor league contract with the Diamondbacks less than a month ago, and they brought him up, and he has done incredibly well in his first few appearances, including 2 innings, no hits, 1 walk, which they intentionally walked someone and immediately got a double play in that inning, which was really impressive. And he had 3 strikeouts. So maybe the Diamondbacks found a diamond in the rough. But the story from this game and Paul Sewald and Ryan Thompson. Just the fact that these 2 guys who were cornerstones for the Diamondbacks run to the World Series in 2023, but you could argue Ryan Thompson and Paul Sewald were 2 of the biggest reasons why the Diamondbacks didn't make the playoffs in 2024. Sewald left after that season. Thompson had a bounce back season last year and continued to pitch really well into this season until in the last month things have not gone well. And for Sewald, it's just been he's given up a lot of home runs. He somehow managed to get the Diamondbacks a lot of saves, but it's ultimately caught up to him. It seems like teams have kind of figured out Paul Sewald the later they get into the season, and it seems like his fastball and his sweeper aren't breaking and aren't riding and rising, and there's not that late movement that fools so many hitters. It feels like that's gone down a little bit, and teams are just hammering Sewald right now. And so Torey Lovello decided, hey, it is closer by committee now. And a couple guys in that closer by committee conversation, Jonathan Loaisiga, Brandon Garcia, who has been the Diamondbacks' best reliever so far this season, Juan Murillo, who has just electric stuff, over 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and a pretty good pitch mix as well. So the Diamondbacks figured out that they probably need reliever help at the deadline as well, or at least they need to find someone who can close games for them because Paul Sewald is not going to be the answer going forward. And we also need to talk about James McCann, who's continued to hit really well since coming back from injury. He had 4 hits and 6 plate appearances. All of them were singles, and he had the game winning RBI single for the Diamondbacks in the top of the 12th inning. We also, Arenado was 3 for 5 that game as well with an RBI. Gabriel Moreno continues to play incredible baseball, and we'll get to him with Wednesday's game as well. Uh, Perdomo was one guy who struggled. He had a triple to lead off the game, but then went 0 for 6 with 3 strikeouts to to end that game. Corbin Carroll played really well. He had 2 hits, an RBI, and a walk. We saw Max Kepler get a hit, have 2 walks as well. And Ryan Waldschmidt had 2 hits and scored a run. And Ildemar Vargas had a hit and an RBI as well. So just great stuff from this Diamondbacks team. The resilience to still fight back after giving up a 6-0 lead. It really showed some playoff mettle. And the Diamondbacks lead the league this season in games won by 1 run, which is a really, really good sign that this team can make a deep playoff run because they've been forged by fire. They don't just go out and dominate teams, but they muck it up. They win these close ball games, and they play these close ball games every single day, which one is a roller coaster ride for us as fans because it is incredibly heart pumping baseball to watch. Baseball is usually relaxing, and it's kind of fun to watch a game where you're up 6-0 and your heart rate doesn't get up, and you're like, man, we're just gonna cruise to victory, especially if Ryan Thompson can come in and clean up this 8th inning and only give up maybe a run or 2. Instead, he gives up 3. So they bring out the closer, Paul Sewald. Then he gives up 3 more runs, and all of a sudden, the season felt like it might be over. The season felt like it might be over, and they just found a way. The Diamondbacks this season, and that's the thing that I've loved the most about this Diamondbacks team this season, is that they've just somehow found a way. Okay, moving on to Wednesday's game, Eduardo Rodriguez had his best performance of the season. 8 innings, 105 pitches, 0 runs. He gave up 5 hits and 1 walk and had 2 Ks. Rodriguez said, I need to get through this baseball game, and I'm pitching to contact. I'm not going after strikeouts. I'm just attacking the strike zone. And let's see. I don't have his he threw 73 strikes out of his 105 pitches. Just incredible display. That means over 66% of his pitches landed 4 strikes. And the Pirates, who have one of the top offenses in baseball, maybe the top, I'm not sure now, after this Diamondback series where they held them to 3 runs and 0 runs in 2 games, but one of the best offenses in baseball this season. And we've just seen this Diamondbacks team, and especially Eduardo Rodriguez, come up huge in these situations. When the team needs Eduardo to shove, he absolutely shoves. I mean, it's just been incredible to watch this season, and he did it again. And I was shocked to see him come out for that bottom of the 8th inning. I thought, man, maybe he's just going to get 1 runner out, or maybe he's just going to get a chance at a runner or 2. But he went the full 8th inning, only did it in 8 pitches, by the way. He was at 97 at the end of the 7th, was at 105 at the end of the 8th. Just a really good job pitching to contact, and again, it just goes to show that this Diamondbacks team plays incredible defense. Jorge Barosa is a complete zero on offense, but his defensive ability in the outfield is incredible, and he made some huge plays this series defensively that should not be overlooked as well. As far as the offense goes, the offense really what came down to a Corbin Carroll double in the third. Then Gabriel Moreno hit a 2-run home run that was assisted by the wind. It would have been off the top of the wall had there not been wind pushing out towards the outfield. But Gabriel Moreno gets a 2-run home run to put the Diamondbacks up 2-0, giving Rodriguez the ability to pitch to contact because he had the lead. He could risk giving up a few hits as long as he didn't give up the big one. Then we saw Max Kepler, who also went 2-for-4, and he had a RBI single later in the game. He had a 1-run single in the sixth inning that scored Gabriel Moreno, who got on base later in the game as well. So the Diamondbacks just did just enough yesterday to win the game, and we saw Brandon Garcia come in and get the save. He gave up one walk but had two strikeouts and completely dominated that ninth inning. And so this Diamondbacks team now is in a position where they're 57-52. They have one more series against the Guardians before the trade deadline. And assuming that they can go in and Mitch Bratt and Cole Drake can keep things close and this Diamondbacks team can win 2 out of 3 against the Guardians, they could have sole possession of the second place wild card spot heading into the MLB trade deadline, which gives Mike Hazen the chance to make this roster better. Now, we're going to see, because there are limitations to what this team can do. Some of those limitations being they can't go over the luxury tax and they're only 10 million away. So are we expecting to see a Tariq Skubal or another big name come to the Diamondbacks? I don't think so. Could the Diamondbacks figure out a way to get the Giants to pay a little bit of Robbie Ray's contract? It would probably require a few more prospect assets to get the Giants to do that, but could Robbie Ray come back to Arizona and help carry this Diamondbacks team to the playoffs? That's absolutely an opportunity on the table. Now, we can also see there's also been guys like Lowe on the Reds linked to this Diamondbacks team. And so I'm not sure who they're going to go out and get, but I know who they need. And their biggest positions of need right now, in my opinion, one, left-handed bat that can potentially play first base as well. What this team needs more than anything is offensive firepower and guys that can continue to provide a spark on this offense. And if you have an offense, even if your pitching is down and you have guys like Bratt and Cole Drake starting, which hopefully shouldn't continue for too much longer, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you just need guys on offense that can get on base and help you score runs. And the more runs the Diamondbacks score, the more likely they are to win games. So that's number one. Can they get a left-handed bat that could potentially play first base? If they do that, it might be a home run already. The second thing they need is they need a relief pitcher, maybe that can potentially close games, or at least a relief pitcher that can be a high leverage guy, similar to a Kevin Ginkel, where you bring him in against some of the best parts of the other team's lineups, whether that's the seventh or the eighth, or potentially even the ninth inning going forward. We'll see what the Diamondbacks decide to do with Kevin Ginkel, but the Diamondbacks need to go out and get another relief arm that can pitch well in high leverage moments. Then last, they need a starting level pitcher to replace Cole Drake or Mitch Bratt until we get the guys healthy. And we know who the guys are. It's Michael Soroka, it's Ryan Nelson, it's Corbin Burns, and it's Zach Gallen. Now, if Zach Gallen comes back, is it going to be any better than what Cole Drake or Mitch Bratt do? Maybe not. So maybe we don't necessarily want Gallen to come back, but if they can find a starting pitcher out there below the tax threshold, that would be a huge opportunity as well. But in my opinion, what they need help with more than anything is a left-handed bat, because if they make the playoffs, Max Kepler cannot play in the playoffs. So their left-handed DH basically is Adrian Del Castillo, who has some pop but has not hit consistently enough for any Diamondbacks fan to feel comfortable with that being our main left-handed bat off the bench. Obviously, Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Perdomo can all bat left-handed, but they need more. They need more left-handed batting, especially with all the right-handed pitching they're going to face in the playoffs. So that's what the Diamondbacks need at the trade deadline. Is Nathaniel Lowe a candidate? I'm not sure. We're gonna see. Maybe they try and offload some salary. Maybe they take Lourdes Gurriel's contract and try and offload that somewhere. Maybe they can get off some salary someplace else. I'm not sure how they're gonna do it, but Hazen has a chance now to go out and buy and put the prospects on the table. Put his cojones on the table and go for it, because what Brandon Fott, Merrill Kelly, and Eduardo Rodriguez showed is that you surround those three with maybe another pitcher to a good bullpen and enough offense. They're pitching well enough this season that they can get you to the playoffs, and they can maybe even take you on a deep run into the playoffs because of how well they're pitching. Now, it's not just guys at the deadline that the Diamondbacks are going to get, but it's also guys that they might get back soon off the injured list. And I believe once Jordan Lawler comes back, and hopefully he can come back soon and remains healthy for the rest of the season, but can Jordan Lawler be the everyday left fielder, or at least split with Max Kepler? I think that's a good spot for him. Uh, Listened to Snake's Territory yesterday, and Jack Summers and Jesse Friedman both agreed that Lawler playing in center might be taxing on his legs. So try and keep him healthy and just let him play in left field. Diamondbacks also have Justin Martinez and Michael Soroka, who are working their way back. We cannot forget about Tommy Troy, who had kind of assumed everyday center field duties over Ryan Waldschmidt, over Tim Tawa, before he went out with an injury. And then further on in the future, Corbin Burns, AJ Puck, Zach Gallen, who recently started throwing again. Those are all guys that can come back. And as long as the Diamondbacks can continue to win baseball games and stay in the hunt, if they can get those guys back, they don't need to do a whole lot at the trade deadline, because they have reinforcements. Hopefully, hopefully coming back. We'll see if that ends up happening or not. And then there's one more bonus guy to watch, a guy that if you are familiar with it, or if you're familiar with the Diamondbacks and watched them at the beginning of the season, there's a guy by the name of Jose Fernandez who catapulted the Diamondbacks start to the season, where they started out, I believe it was like a 15-8, 15-10 record to start the season. He was a big reason why. Struggled in May and June, got sent down to Reno. But in the month of July, first baseman Jose Fernandez is hitting 373, 437, and is slugging 680. So he has a 1.117 OPS in the month of July in Reno. And we know it's Reno, so everyone's stats are juiced there. But if he's figured it out at the plate again, maybe it's worth it for the Diamondbacks to bring him up. Not sure how many options Locklear or Tawa have left, but he's definitely a guy where if you're looking at the if you're looking for a guy to come up and provide an offensive spark, looks like Jose Fernandez could be that guy. Could be that guy that could provide an offensive spark at first base, which the Diamondbacks need, but they need less because they've been able to kind of piece it together recently with Tawa. Vargas has started hitting again, and Tyler Locklear. So there's a lot of avenues that this Diamondbacks team can take going forward. And it also wouldn't surprise me if some of these guys, like a Tommy Troy, like a unfortunately a Jose Fernandez, I would not be surprised at all if the Diamondbacks really wanted to go for it this season and they needed to put one of these really intriguing young prospects on the table. Could one of them be gone at the trade deadline? Yes. I hope not. We're going to see, but it's going to be exciting. The Guardians series, just a quick preview of that. They don't hit, but they also don't give up runs. So expect expect more of kind of what happened in the Pirates series, at least in the first and third game, where a 3-2 game. It could be 2-2 going into the eighth inning, and the Diamondbacks need a clutch hit and clutch pitching. Could be a 3-0 game where Merrill Kelly shows up on Sunday and absolutely shoves again. The biggest thing is we need Mitch Bratt and Cole Drake to pitch well. The Guardians show against left-handed pitching, and both of those guys throw left-handed. So it's going to be this. It's kind of make it or break it time for these guys. If either of these guys looks uncomfortable against the Guardians, then it means that they're just not major league ready yet. And it's going to be a low bar for them to clear. They just need to keep the Diamondbacks in the game. And we might see Slade Ciccone, former Diamondback pitcher that we gave up for Josh Naylor. We might see him this series as well, so that will be a fun matchup to watch as well. But to close out this Diamondbacks portion of the podcast, we got to talk about Gabriel Moreno on one side and Geraldo Perdomo on the other side. And Gabriel Moreno's continues to be the first or second best catcher in baseball. He has a 26 game on base streak and recently broke Corbin Carroll's record of 45 straight starts where he has reached base. He has a 3.1 fWAR, which is second among all catchers, only behind Dylan Dingler on the Tigers. He leads all catchers in batting average. And why is he such a good hitter? Well, it's because he can put the ball exactly where it needs to go. And his at bat quality is incredible. He sees the most amount of pitches, even more than Perdomo, on this Diamondbacks team. If he needs to hit it the other way, he can do that. If he needs to hit for power, he's shown that he can do that, and he can hit pull side. When he needs to get the ball in the air to get a runner home, like he did in the Pirates series, he can do that as well. He has been the Diamondbacks' best player since the middle of May. He has been incredible, and he's healthy, which is huge. And I'm hoping to see a lot more of James McCann this season because one, Gabriel Moreno is such a valuable player at the DH position, and he's hitting so well right now that he's a great person to put in the DH slot, as well as Ketel Marte when he needs days off. But James McCann has been hitting the baseball really well, so having McCann in that DH spot would be pretty great. Or sorry, not McCann, but having Gabriel Moreno in that DH spot would be good to help keep him healthy. But he's also a great defensive catcher, so you do want him behind the plate. And it seems like he has really, really good relationships with Eduardo Rodriguez, pretty good relationship with Merrill Kelly behind the plate. And so you also need his defensive ability at catcher as well. But I expect the Diamondbacks to more utilize him as a hitter than as a catcher going forward because they have James McCann, who they trust back there. And maybe you even see Adrian Del Castillo catch some games just to continue to keep Gabby healthy and available for every single game going forward. Maybe we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and find Gabby a day off in this Guardians series, especially with especially with how poor the Guardians hitters are. Hopefully, the Diamondbacks offense can get hot and score 10 runs, and they can get Gabby and they can get Perdomo and they can get Carroll out of the game early. It would be nice to see them do that a few more times this season to get those guys some much needed rest. Um, but yeah, Gabriel Moreno has been absolutely incredible, and he very well is on his way to being, a top 5 to 10 player in the National League. He could very well finish in the top 10 in MVP voting if he continues to hit at this level. Um, and I'm just so excited to see what happens for him going forward. Unfortunately, the Diamondbacks don't have him locked down to a long term contract. Hopefully, that's something that they can get ironed out uh, before next season, but it's likely that Gabby's going to be a very, very high paid player on another team in a few years. So I'm just going to enjoy Gabriel Moreno right now in a Diamondbacks uniform while I can. And he's just been an absolute treat to watch. And on the flip side, I have to talk about someone who has contributed to uh, the Diamond, someone who has contributed to the Diamondbacks' lack of offensive production with runners in scoring position this season. And it's Geraldo Perdomo. The Diamondbacks continue to shuffle the top four in the lineup, whether it's Carroll leading off or Marte leading off. Now Marte's batting fourth. And Gabby was batting fourth, but now he's batting third, and Perdomo's batting second. And if this lineup is ever going to work, it's really just been one guy that's been the problem more than anyone else, and it's Geraldo Perdomo. So the Diamondbacks can try whatever lineup they want. They can try whatever lineup they want, but if Geraldo Perdomo is going to continue to hit for a 149 batting average with runners in scoring position this season, this lineup's not going to work. His weighted on base average for his career is .341, and this season it's only .257 with runners in scoring position. If the Diamondbacks offense is going to explode for the last 2 months of the season, they need Geraldo Perdomo to get back to being Geraldo Perdomo, which is driving in runs. He just hasn't been able to do that this season, and he is constantly in positions with runners in scoring position. I don't know if he leads the team in plate appearances with runners in scoring position, but when you hit around Carroll and you hit around Marte and you hit around Moreno, chances are those guys are going to be on base a lot and are going to be on base in scoring position a lot. So, no matter what lineup configuration the Diamondbacks go with, they need Geraldo Perdomo to drive in runs. If not, they just have to move him to the bottom of the order. Maybe you put him back at 9 where he was at the beginning of his career. Maybe that's what you go with. But right now, he just has not been able to produce with runners in scoring position. And it's really handcuffed this Diamondbacks lineup at the top of the order. We heard Garagiola say so many times in the Pirates series, Ketel Marte, he's batting in the fourth spot, but hasn't, but no one is on base. Like, it's just like he's leading off essentially because there aren't any runs for Marte to drive in. And a big reason why is because of Perdomo. He just has not been able to get on base with runners in scoring position to keep rallies going. And the walk numbers are getting better. He's walked a ton this month, but the batting average is not going up. The good news is that Fangraphs still expects him to finish near his career batting averages, which means we could potentially see two of the best months of Geraldo Perdomo's career, hopefully in August and September. Am I expecting a bounce back? I don't know. Am I praying for one? Absolutely. So I'm excited to see what this Diamondbacks team can do, especially Geraldo Perdomo, because if this Diamondbacks team is going to reach its potential, it's going to be because of Geraldo Perdomo offensively. They can bring in a left-handed DH, but the most important person to get this Diamondbacks offense firing on all cylinders is Geraldo Perdomo getting back to being Geraldo Perdomo. Whew, that was 35 minutes on the Diamondbacks. Crazy stuff. All right, to wrap, let's get to the Arizona Cardinals. I had a Sun segment planned, but I don't want this one to go too long, and I'm going on vacation after this. So let's get to the Arizona Cardinals. Here are the three. Here are the top three storylines from Arizona Cardinals training camp week 1. Number 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Michael Wilson for that number 1 wide receiver spot. I don't know if they're ever going to actually announce if there's a wide receiver number 1 and a wide receiver number 2. I think LaFleur is going to say, well, sometimes Marvin Harrison Jr. is the number 1 option and sometimes Michael Wilson is going to be the number 1 option. But at some point, we're going to know the pecking order in the wide receiver room and who is going to start the season in the number 1 spot. Is it going to be Michael Wilson or is it going to be Marvin Harrison Jr.? And right now, Michael Wilson looks like he's solidified or making a really good run at that number 1 spot. Whereas Marvin Harrison Jr., we've seen highlights of his drops. We've seen highlights of his drops in training camp so far. He has flashed some incredible plays as well. But Michael Wilson just continues to be super consistent and continues to produce, especially with Jacoby Brissett as his quarterback. Now we obviously know that neither of those guys are the number 1 option on this team. And the number 1 option on this team is Trey McBride, the Madden 99 overall player, the all-pro tight end, one of the highest paid tight ends in football. We know that Trey McBride is the Arizona Cardinals' best player on offense. Really, and maybe by a large margin, although we'll see what the receivers and the running back room can do this year to close that gap. But there's long-term ramifications for how this specific wide receiver 1 race shakes out. Because the likelihood is whoever you decide is your number 1 wide receiver this year is probably the guy that you're going to invest long-term money in. And maybe the Cardinals can figure out a way to invest long-term money in both if both of these guys manage to prove that, hey, we're pretty good we're both really good wide receivers. Are we top 10 wide receivers in the league? I don't think we have a Bengals situation going on here where we have Jamar Chase and T Higgins. But if both of these guys are top 30 receivers in the league and one of them hopefully can elevate themselves into the conversation of top 10, it's probably more likely that it's Marvin Harrison, but hey, Michael Wilson showed that he can absolutely play. He showed that last season, and he's showing that in camp. So there are some long-term ramifications for who ends up earning the top wide receiver spot during camp. And it would be unfortunate if, at least for, Monty Austin and this front office, if that ends up being Michael Wilson, it means that you spent the number 4 pick in the draft on Marvin Harrison Jr. and he ends up being your second wide receiver. That is not what they envisioned for Marvin Harrison Jr. at all. And it feels like Marvin Harrison Jr. is the worst first round Ohio State wide receiver to not bust, but to not live up to the potential that he had coming out of college, which is just unfortunate. And hopefully he can prove us wrong and he can go out there this season and have 1,000 yards, catch 5 to 10 touchdowns. Uh, he and Michael Wilson can complement each other. And all of a sudden at the end of the season, we're saying, man, do the Cardinals have two of the top 20 wide receivers in football? I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'm hoping that Marvin Harrison can really jump, and I'm hoping that Mike LaFleur can help him make that jump as well. Outside of that, the wide receiver room, it's going to be interesting to see who really assumes that um, third wide receiver position, because we know Trey McBride's going to get the ball. We know Jeremiah Love's going to get the ball. We know Tyler Algier is going to get the ball. We know James Conner is going to get the ball when healthy. We know Marvin Harrison is going to get the ball. We know Michael Wilson is going to get the ball. There's not a whole lot of room for anyone else, but the Cardinals are going to have times where they have 3 and 4 wide receivers on the field at once. Who is that wide receiver going to be? Right now, it looks like Kendrick Bourne is flashing as wide receiver number 3, but the Cardinals need at least a little bit of depth in the wide receiver room outside of Kendrick Bourne. So how does the rest of that shake out? Obviously, we've seen Xavier Weaver. We've seen some other guys flash. I don't remember their names right now off the top of my head, but we've seen some other guys flash with Carson Beck as well, playing with the second and third string units during Cardinals training camp so far. So how does the rest of that wide receiver room shake out? It's going to be really interesting to watch this. One, the wide receiver one competition at the top, but who's going to be the third and fourth guys this season in that wide receiver room? Because while they may have a marginal impact on the season, if you have good depth in the wide receiver room, it just makes it that much harder for offenses or for defenses to game plan for this offense, because Mike LaFleur can use so many different personnel packages. Whether we're playing 3 tight ends with Tip Ryman, Elijah Higgins, and Trey McBride, then you throw in Marvin and Michael Wilson, and all of us, or you probably have a running back in there. You have Marvin out there with Jeremiah Love. Like, that could be super fun. You could be in 12 personnel, and then you just have your two wide receiver ones out there with Trey McBride, Tip Ryman, and Jeremiah Love, or one of the running backs, one of the many running backs. I imagine we'll see a lot of 21 personnel this season as well, like 2 running backs, especially because Jeremiah Love is such a weapon in the pass game. I think we're going to see a lot of 21 personnel this season with McBride, the 2 backs, and then your 2 wide receivers. I think that's going to be really interesting to see what they're able to do with two running backs on the field with McBride and the 2 receivers. I'm excited to see some of that. There's so many different personnel packages that seem to make sense on this Arizona Cardinals roster. And the more I'm thinking about it, I sit here and I sit here and I ask myself this question. The Cardinals were clearly one of the poorest coach teams last year. And we did bring back the defensive coordinator, and he did also have a lot of unlucky injuries uh, with Mack going down, and with Will Johnson being in and out of the lineup, and Walter Nolan only played a few games. Darius Robinson only played a few games. There were just injuries all over the field last season. So maybe they get a better health season this year, and maybe the defense is better, and the the defense looks better, and it's better coached. Maybe that happens. And then the offense, I mean, you just look at the skill position on this offense, and you look at it and you just say, there's no way this team should have a 3.5 win total this season. I'm not now. Let's be clear here. I'm not saying that this Cardinals team is going to make the playoffs. That's not what I'm saying at all. But this team, this team has way more talent and should be way better coached. That it should be able to win like 5 to 7 to 8 games this season. Now I understand they play in the hardest division in football. I understand that. And are they probably going to go 1-5 against this division? Yeah, probably. But they're also going to get to play some of the worst teams in football as well. So, right now, I'm saying it right now on the record. This team is much better than last year and will be much better than last year because the coaching is that much better and they have the skill position talent all over the roster on offense. That this team is going to score some points. Okay. Storyline number 2. Where does Jeremiah Love fit in the running back room? We know he's going to play. He has to play. You drafted him fourth or excuse me, third overall. Wow. You drafted him in the top 5. He has to play. That's a non-negotiable. Now, do you want to give him 400 carries in a season that you're likely only going to win a handful of games? While I do believe it's going to be more than 3, I don't think it's going to be 10. So, do you want to give him so many carries, risk the injury, let him take all those hits? I don't think so. And I don't think the Cardinals think so either. I think it's going to be a slow process bringing him along. I think they want to make sure that he's absolutely ready before they start giving him heavy loads. And it's great because you have James Conner and Tyler Algier in that room as well. I mean, you look at that room right now, and it's got to be the best running back room in football. It might not have the best running back in football in there right now, but just 1 to 3, if James Conner can come back and be who James Conner has been the previous 2 seasons outside of last year, he's been 1,000-yard back multiple times in his career. We've seen Tyler Algier as be 1,000-yard back and then be a really good backup to Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. And he's been taking the number 1 reps in practice so far. And now you have Jeremiah Love, who has the most guaranteed money out of any running back in the NFL. We've seen guys go out there and say glowing things about him. Jacoby Brissett said there's a reason why they're paying this guy $50 million a year, and it's because he's so explosive and he's so special and he's so gifted. So, how does this room shake out? Does Jeremiah Love lead the Cardinals in carries this season? I'm actually going to go out there and say no. I think it's going to be Tyler Algier. I think Tyler Algier, he doesn't get talked about a lot because James Conner's been there forever and they brought in Jeremiah Love. But I think Tyler Algier might be the Cardinals' leading back this year. I'm interested to see how it shakes out going forward. But I think out of training camp, based on what Nathaniel Hackett has said, I think Tyler Algier is going to be running back 1 at the end of training camp. Now, could Jeremiah Love immediately take that from him like 2 games into the season? That could absolutely happen. But my prediction right now is that Jeremiah Love is going to be running back number 2 or running back number 3 on the depth chart week 1 of the NFL season, which is going to make a lot of fans angry, but it's not going to make me angry because we know that Jeremiah Love is going to be the guy in the future. But the Cardinals if they are tanking this year, which we're going to find out pretty early on if they're tanking this year. If they are tanking this year, it's not worth it to load them up with a bunch of carries. It's just not worth it. You got to save them for when you have the quarterback and when you have the defense that can go out there and compete in the NFC West. Then we can give them 400 carries. All right. The last storyline I'm watching is the development of Carson Beck because we believe with the Cardinals tanking or assumed tanking this season, we believe that at some point this season we're going to get to see Carson Beck because you have to see what you have in him going into next year because of how loaded that the 2027 NFL draft is with quarterbacks. So, how does Carson Beck look in training camp? Well, it's been mixed so far. Uh, he's been inaccurate in intermediate and deep passes, according to Tyler Drake. But he in the first full padded practice yesterday, he showed some flashes. He really did. And if you've seen the highlights, there have been both good highlights and bad highlights. And could Carson Beck be the backup quarterback coming out of training camp? That's what I'm watching for. Maybe Gardner's the backup. Maybe he's not. Maybe Carson Beck can prove that he's ready enough to be the backup quarterback. Now, if Jacoby Brissett goes down in the middle of the game, I think Gardner Minshew is the emergency quarterback. I think that's who they put in midway during a game if Jacoby Brissett gets injured. But if Brissett goes down or they decide that Brissett's not the answer, is Carson Beck QB2? I think so. We'll see if training camp betters that out. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to the AZ Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Humphreys. Please like and subscribe, or if you're listening, please follow and rate this podcast. Share it with an Arizona sports fan that you know. And with that, let's go Diamondbacks. Let's go get a series win against the Guardian. Come on, Mike Hazen. Bye. Let's go make the playoffs.